Carpathian is a Carpathian is a state. Carpathian. Carpathian.
So, Assetto Corsa Evo. Where do I start? Let's be honest, this game is probably one of the most anticipated titles in sim racing this year, with the full game being set to include a massive free roam map around the Nürburgring, a whole host of different cars, both road going and race cars, as well as things like customization online as well, and proper career style progression. But this video isn't about that. This video is about the version 0.1 early access that we got access to yesterday as of the recording of this video. So all in all, I spent about 5 or 6 hours playing the game on stream, giving my thoughts and opinions. So I thought I would just smush that all down into a video for you guys to give you my thoughts on Assetto Corsa Evo. Now, with every video you're going to see and every stream you're going to see, we do have to apply the very big rubber stamp of BAM, it is early access, which means it's not done yet, it's going to be rough around the edges, and stuff is going to be missing. But there was more stuff missing than there should have been. Instead of being met with the driving academy, the basics of car customization and progression, car rentals, stuff like that, the people who actually bought into early access yesterday were met with only, I think it was 6 of the 20 cars promised in early access launch. This, I think, was due to the fact that for whatever reason the game seems to run in an always online state, and because of the massive demand of people wanting to play the game at once, the servers did the thing servers always do and just did the big die. Now, this was addressed and sort of band-aided by the guys at Kunos, who made it so all 20 cars were available to everyone regardless of progression in the game. But it does make you wonder why there are always online elements in a single player part of the game. For me personally, I don't mind that so much because I'm always plugged into the internet here, but that isn't the case for everyone. So that's definitely something you're going to want to think about before picking up this game in early access. Well, they're saying that even now, at the time of this recording, which is about 24 hours after the game released on Steam, the driving academy and all the customization, all that stuff is still unavailable. So basically, you have quick race or practice, and that's it right now. But given that I've just spoken about cars, and this is a sim title, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the cars, how they handle, and did they meet expectation for myself, and I guess you guys watching at home. The short answer is that the driving is good in Assetto Corsa Evo. All the cars handle how you would expect them to, and it's definitely a sim-based driving experience. That being said though, it wasn't quite perfect, with, in my opinion, the ABS being a bit too forgiving in certain situations. Most of the cars feel like they have an open differential, so you can't really slide the car properly. And on the topic of sliding the car, I found that the cars were really good, too good, at regaining grip during like a slide. So I shouldn't have come back from that one, really, should I? So it made actually sliding the car around a corner and trying to do your best DK impression quite difficult, because the car would just grip up again in an unnatural way and you'd find yourself pointing straight again. But I really enjoyed driving the lower powered rear-wheel drive cars like the Honda S2000, the GR86. Those are the sort of cars where the game feels the most fun to me. Conversely, front-wheel drive cars, maybe it's just guys suck in those cars, like the Golf and the Hyundai and stuff like that, but I didn't quite get on with those cars as well. But moving to the race cars, like the Porsche and the AMG GT2 car and the Ferrari Challenge car, that was more hit or miss for me. The cars on slick tyres, the AMG GT2 felt really nice. I had an idea what that car was doing all the time I was driving it, whereas the Porsche and the Ferrari felt, I don't know, they didn't feel quite right, is the only way I can say it. The Porsche felt quite numb to drive, and the Ferrari just didn't seem to have any grip at all anywhere at any other point. So maybe there was a slight issue there with the tyre, I'm not sure. In terms of force feedback for driving, I'm using the Moser R21 here, with sort of my baseline pit house settings that I use for most sims, as well as tweaking a couple of settings in game, and the feedback feels fine. I will say, maybe we could do with a few more effects. I found it hard a couple of times to know when I actually lost traction, especially like in a front wheel drive car when I was understeering or pushing a car too hard into a corner. I found like that was a little bit soft going into that moment. And running over some of the curbs, some give you a rumble, some don't at the moment. Again, a little bit inconsistent there, but I like to think that's something that is still being worked on. But the base driving experience definitely has good potential. Oh yeah, weather. I almost forgot. There is weather in the game and dynamic day-night transition, so you can have it go from dry to wet to dry, although there aren't really very good controls for that right now. But the rating in the game, it feels decent, you know, it feels decent, especially for something that is in 0.1. There are patches of the circuit which are slippier than others. I haven't yet come across the localized rain that was sort of put in the trailer. Maybe that's just because I've not put the right setting in yet. I don't know what that setting is though, or there's nothing to suggest what that setting is. But there are parts of the circuit that are slippier than others, and you can aquaplane and all that stuff. I do feel like visually it's quite hard to tell though which parts of the circuit are wetter than others. There are sometimes puddles, which of course, obviously, puddles can be a bit more slippery than others. And I'd also say it's a little bit similar to ACC in the way that the game sort of puts down wet parts in the circuit to then encourage you to drive off the racing line, rather than the racing line actually being the slippery surface that you have to try and avoid. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense in my head. Again, this is only my initial impressions, but that's what it feels like at the moment. For me, it looks a little bit like Assetto Corsa Competizione in the colour palette. There are some situations where the game looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, the classic sunset or sunrise stuff looks so nice in this game. It really does. Also, nighttime driving as well, I think, looks pretty sweet. And there are also a number of photographic filters for you to go through and choose from, so you can actually give your game a bit more of a personalised look based on your preferences, although it is buried in a couple of menus. Graphically, it's definitely decent, in my opinion. But for me, I really liked the detail that was put into the cars inside the cockpit. Every car has every button properly mapped out, including things like the infotainment system in the center of some of the more modern cars. That all works. Everything on there seems to work. I mean, all the gauges work on there as well, which I think is just so cool and so immersive. And if you try and think forward to sort of June time when the first open world stuff's going to come out, having cars like that be so detailed in the interior, it's going to really, I think, add to the immersion of just whipping these things around the hairpins around the Nürburgring. I'm really looking forward to that, but of course for now you just have to imagine it. Again though, it's not perfect. I mean, my PC is pretty decent PC. It's a 5950 CPU twin to a 3090. I think it's 32 gigs of RAM in this one. The game runs decent until you start loading lots of AI in there. Then it starts to struggle. I think on my own I didn't see frame rates below 110, something like that, 110 FPS. But when you start adding lots of AI in, it really does start to struggle. I mean, I was getting below 40 FPS and sort of constant, quite big stutters. So obviously some optimization needed there. But talking to AI, my word, the AI, they're not very good right now. Very, very basic AI. Reminds me a lot of actually of the original Assetto Corsa, where they all try and follow one line, and when they get off that one line, they panic and start weaving all over the space. They don't really acknowledge the existence of the player either, so if you find yourself in the path of the AI coming out of a corner, they'll just drive through you, push you off a circuit. Even when you are stuck on the front of their nose, they'll keep pushing you until you get dislodged. And again, AI aren't really in a space to be used that well yet. They're also not very fast either. On 100%, even I think someone fairly new to sim racing will have a pretty easy time beating those guys. So that one needs adjusting as well. But to be honest, the AI is probably one of the parts of this that needs the most work at the moment. Now, sound. I'm an audiophile. Sounds very strange because some cars sound alright. Some cars sound like they have placeholder sounds. Like the Escort Cosworth, for example, doesn't sound, to me, very interesting. It sounds very generic. The same with the 695 Fiat 500 thing. I don't know my Fiat very well, I'm sorry. But then you get to the Camaro and you get to the Alfa Romeo Giulia. That thing sounds awesome. Proper attention to detail. With the AMG GE2 also sounding good on board, but then for some reason on the exterior cameras it sounds nothing like it. I hate to keep saying this, but a lot of it just feels very early. Like a lot of sounds I think aren't quite the final product of what we're getting. I hope not anyway. But there are some cars that show the potential of what the sound engine can do. So I'm hoping they all come up to that standard instead of sort of maybe sitting down at the car has noise standard. That's fine. So I guess after all that, you're probably wondering, Jimmy, should I buy Assetto Corsa Evo in the state that it's currently in? And I have to say, really, it's up to you. The version of the game you're getting now is discounted. I think the cost is something like £26 if you're in the UK. You'll have to convert that to your own currency wherever you are in the world. But if you do decide to buy it, you need to go in with the expectation that it's not going to be what the finished game is. There's a lot of work to be done here, but Kunos have released a roadmap. You can go through it if you want and check it out, so you can get an idea of what's coming when. But if you go into the game thinking, cool, I'm going to get my free roam, I'm going to get all the stuff that I'm really looking forward to, then you're going to be probably a little bit disappointed. But if you want to support the developer, then that's, of course, up to you. But guys, those are my thoughts on Assetto Corsa Evo. What do you guys think? Are you impressed? Are you disappointed? Let me know down below in the comments. And while you're doing that, why not hit the like button? Also subscribe. Hell, why not? We're almost at 1 million subscribers, so if you want to be a part of that, then hit that sub button. And of course, there'll be more videos on AC Evo as more updates come out. But for now, take care, have an awesome day. See you all for the next one.